Hi there, my name is Tom Morgan. I'm a Microsoft MVP and I spend a lot of time talking about Microsoft Teams and how you can use the development platform in Teams to bring experiences to users where they're working and really bring some context along with those conversations. Microsoft recently made available a new app template called List Search. I've talked about app templates before and I've done a walkthrough. This one's a little bit different. This is for list search and I've never tried to deploy it before, so I'm coming at this for the first time. But these app templates are designed to be easy to deploy and you don't have to be a developer to kind of get going with them. And I wanted to really prove that out now. So this is going to be kind of a rough cut video. There may be like bits, it's going to be completely unedited. If I get kind of stuck and fall into problems, we'll work through them and come out the other side hopefully. But the aim is to get list search working in my Microsoft Teams tenant. All right, let's get started. So this is the page, the documentation page for app templates, and you can see list search here. It's listed at the top. There's a bit of context about it, and there's this get it on GitHub link, and that's where we're going to go straight away. The only thing I've done before hitting record here is to download the entire GitHub project as a zip file. And you'll see kind of why a little bit later. So that's worth doing first. I just went to this green button here where it says clone or download, and I downloaded the zip. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go straight to the deployment guide because that's what we want to do. So let's load that up. All right, so there's some prerequisites here. Let's quickly go through these and make sure we're not going to try and do something we can't do. An Azure subscription, yep, that's fine. A copy of the repo, well, we've just got that, so that's good. A service account to access SharePoint. Right, okay, so what List Search is it's a way of exposing your SharePoint data in Teams. So as part of this, it needs to access your SharePoint repository. I'm just going to use kind of a test account I've got. I'm probably just going to use my account. You should probably use a service account if you're doing this for real, but I don't think that's going to hold us up. The only thing I am going to check, so before I start anything like this, I like to put everything in a separate resource group in Azure because it keeps things kind of nicely boxed off and I don't get confused. I know from doing the Icebreaker app, there were some resources and you had to sort of make sure you got the right region for the resources. So I'm just going to scroll around here and see if that's the same thing. Yeah, so I think it is. So if you look at step 4, which we are going to come to, but it says here that the resource group location must be in a data center that supports application insights, Azure Search, Q&A Maker, and Logic Apps. So I guess this solution is going to use all of those things. Now, I could go and look at this link to figure out, if I'm going to choose a data center, if the one I want to choose is supported, and your mileage may vary here. I'm kind of going to cheat. I'm going to use West US because this screenshot is West US. So I know that the person who wrote this document got theirs to work in West US. So that's the kind of cheat I'm going to do. So I'm going to go straight to resource groups now. And I'm going to create a new resource group in West US. And hopefully it will load. So this is the unedited video you're watching. So you are going to have to wait for all the pages to load, all the dodgy network, and everything. So let's create a new resource group. Does seem pretty slowly. Hoping it's going to kind of speed up as this goes through, otherwise we're going to be waiting a long time. To the point where I don't even know what's happening anymore. Like all I'm doing is creating a resource group. I'm not quite sure. I'm kind of tempted to click it again, but that often makes things worse. So I don't know if that's really what I want to do. Oh, here we go. Create a resource group. Okay, so I'm going to call this List Search, and I'm going to create it in West US. So I'll click Review and Create, and then Create. So all that's going to do is create an empty resource group. It should only take a second, and then we can go straight to it. And that's a good kind of first step. All right, so let's go back to this deployment guide. Let's actually go to the beginning and work through it in order. That seems more sensible. All right, so first step, step 1, register 2 Azure applications in your tenant directory. Okay, one for the messaging extension and one for the configuration app. Okay, fine. So we need to go and create a new registration. It needs to be a account in this org directory only, and we can leave the redirect field blank. And when we've done it, we need to copy the application ID and the tenant ID. All right, so let's go and do that. So let me just flick over to this page. All right. Let me show you something real quick. So this is my SharePoint list. I'm going to come back to this at the end, but this is kind of the data we're going to go and try and get our information into Teams. So it's just a kind of dummy data. These are made up company names. You've probably got a million lists in SharePoint that look a lot like this, and the aim of the game is to surface that information in Teams. All right, so back to the deployment. So let's create this new registration, and we need to do 2 of these, but we're just going to do one first. Back to the deployment guide, and I'm just going to double check. What do we call it? Oh, we just called it something like list search. Okay, well that makes sense. Let's do that then. So I'm over here in this tab because I sign into AD with a different account to the one my Azure tenant is in. You probably do something similar, or you may not. It doesn't really matter. It just stops me, hopefully, from having to log in all the time. So accounts in this organizational directory was what we were supposed to keep it as. It said to leave the redirect URI empty, to register the app, and then pick up the tenant ID and the application ID. So once the application gets created, hopefully it's going to jump to it. Okay, so this is our application ID. So let's just take a copy of that, and I'm just going to create just a notepad file to store some of this stuff. So we've got our app ID, and we want the tenant ID as well. So let's just take the tenant ID. Pop that there. Okay, so back to the deployment guide, which says what? We've done that. We need to go to certificates and secrets, click on new client secret, and take a copy of it, basically, I think. Yep. Right, so let's do that. Certificates and secrets. Create a new client secret. I'm going to set mine to never expire. I'm not going to give it a description. And importantly, you need to copy this value now. It won't be shown to you again. So for that reason, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to pop it into this file as well. So we've got it. Okay. Then on the side rail in the manage section, navigate to API permissions, click on add permission, select graph, select delegated permissions, choose offline access, site and sites.read.org. Okay, well we can do that. So API permissions over here. We'll click add a permission. We'll use Microsoft Graph. We want delegated permissions. And the 2 permissions we want, hopefully we can search for once it loads them. So we've got offline access, take that. And we also want sites.read.all. So we'll add those permissions. Okay. Now, if you're a tenant admin at this point, you are lucky because you get this button. If you're not a tenant admin, you need to go and find a friendly tenant admin to come and click this button for you. But I'm going to just do that for me. Okay, so we've got admin consent granted. Great, let's go back to the deployment guide. So, step 8, go back to app registrations and repeat steps 2 and 4 for the configuration app and call it list search configuration. Okay, so basically what they're saying is do everything you just did, do it all over again. This is listed twice, but with the same ID, so I think it's okay. Maybe I'm just going to refresh this page, because that looks a little weird. I just want to make sure it's going to be okay. I imagine now when we come back, it's only going to be listed once, but it's good to make sure, even though it's going to take forever to load again. I need to do something with this internet speed. I'm not sure. It's unusually slow. I'm not sure if it's unusually slow or if Azure is unusually slow. I don't really want to blame either of them. But whatever, we are waiting. Because now I wish I hadn't clicked refresh. Okay, we do have it just once, good. So let's create another one for our configuration app. List search configuration. Great. So we'll keep everything else the same. Go and register that. Created it. Hopefully we'll go to it. Yep. I don't need to take the tenant ID this time because I know it's going to be the same, but I do need to take the application ID. So let's take that. Let's go back to our notepad. So then we've got the config app ID. It's that. The secret we don't have yet, but let's just go and grab that now. Right, new client secret. Set to never, click add. Okay, let's grab that value, back to the notepad and paste it in. Oh, and before we forget, app permissions again for here. Add permission. And then exactly the same as the other application. I'm going to step through this process of saying graph, delegated permissions, and offline access, as well as sites.read.all. Add those permissions and grant the admin consent. Alright, so back to the deployment guide. So at this point you have 4 unique values: the application ID, the secret, the application ID for the configuration app, and the tenant ID, which is the same for both apps. Yes, we have all of that, and we also have the secret for the config. I don't know if we need that or not, but we have it. Okay, step 2, deploy to your Azure subscription. Click on the Deploy to Azure button below. Alright, so I'm just going to open that in a new tab. So what this is, it's going to take all the Azure bits that this project needs, and it's going to deploy them into my tenant for me. Looking at the screenshot, it looks like there's several bits of information I'm going to need to supply. So what it normally does is load up this box, which we'll cut to in a minute because it's still loading. And then one of the first things I'll have to do is choose my resource group, which is why I previously created the resource group before I started, because I kind of thought this might happen. And then what else are we doing? We're going to add some more stuff in here. So let's wait for this to load before we go through these steps, because it looks like it's still taking forever. So reminder that this is an unedited video, sort of deliberately. I'd normally cut these pauses out, but I kind of don't want this to be a smoke and mirrors kind of video. I want this to be this is the real world of actually, if you want to get this deployed, what do you need to do? What happens if it goes wrong? What happens if you're trying it on some weirdly flaky internet? This is the sort of real world of deployment. So apologies if there's like times like this where we're just kind of waiting for something to happen and we're not really sure what. But I guess this is the reality, right? This sometimes happens. Often happens to me if I'm trying to do a demo. But yeah, it just sometimes happens. Sometimes things are slow. There's no good reason for it. Sometimes they're fast. And it just kind of just happens that way sometimes. Let's go back to the deployment guide and see if there's anything we can do. So we know we're going to choose a subscription and a resource group. We're going to, what's this? Enter a base resource name, which the template uses. So the name, the app service names, base resource name, and the base resource name config must be available. For instance, if you select Contoso list search as the base name, the names Contoso list search and Contoso says config must be free, otherwise the deployment will flow with a conflict error. Okay, so let us make up a name. Thought stuff, list search, and thought stuff, list search, config. Those will be the kind of base resource names that we'll have. So let's take that. I guess we're going to need it. Let's go back here. What is happening up here? This is still taking forever. It's finally maybe loading. I have no idea why this is so slow. Right, okay, so it's loaded. So this looks like the screenshot and there's a load of gaps to fill in. So let's fill in what we can. So we know the resource group. So let's load that, list search. We know the base resource name, that's the thing we were just looking at. So I'm going to call mine tstuff list search. I'm just going to go back to the deployment. I hope that's not already taken. And then step 6, fill in the various IDs in the template. So the messaging extension client ID is the application ID of the messaging extension app, the secret for that, the config app ID, and the tenant. Okay, fine. So we have all of that stuff in our notepad files. So the app ID we can put in here. The secret we'll put in as well. Put that in there. The config app ID. I don't know what that is. We'll kind of come back to that. That wasn't listed. And the tenant ID. Now the tenant ID's already got something in it, and it looks like it will probably pick it up from the subscription. But let's be sure. Let's pop it in anyway because we do know what it is. So back to the deployment guide, and what do we need to do for the config admin UPN list? A semicolon delimited list of users who will be allowed to access the configuration app. Okay, fine. So I'm just going to put me in there. Oops. Like so. Nothing else to fill in. All this stuff appears to be filled in for us. I guess we could change it if we care, but we don't. Let's click agree. Let's click purchase. This is not a money purchase, apart from the fact that it's going to create assets in Azure, which will cost you money. But it's not as if you're buying anything at this stage. So this gets validated, which is good, and it's gone to deployment in progress, which is reassuring. So it's back to the deployment guide. So it says wait for the deployment to finish. It can take more than 10 minutes for the deployment to finish. Okay, so we'll give it a bit of time. I wonder if there's anything we can do whilst we wait. So note the location of the configuration app you deployed. Okay, so let's assume it's going to deploy okay. And the app will be called something dash configuration. Right, okay, yeah, fine. Let's just take that and take it down here and make up what as is going to be, which is going to be like this. Okay. Because then it says, go back to the app registrations page, repeat the steps below for each of the 2 apps you created. Okay. Click on the application, click authentication, add the location of the configuration app as the redirect URI. Okay. And under implicit grant check ID tokens. Okay, so we can actually do that probably whilst this is deploying if we assume it's going to deploy okay. So let's go to our list of app registrations again. Let's go to list search, the first one. Let's go to authentication. Let's wait it loads. Oh, this is painful. Right. Let's put in the redirect URL there. And then under implicit grant, we want to tick ID tokens. Okay. And remember, when we do this, we need to click save. Make sure it's saved. Okay, and let's go and do that with the other one, because it said to do it for both applications. Go to authentication. Put in the redirect URL, choose ID tokens, and save. Alright, so back to the deployment guide, see if there's anything else we can do. So now it says go to the configuration app, which is, okay, so at this point we don't have a configuration app because I'm fairly sure this is still deploying. Yep, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. I'm not going to do anything. I mean, I might just check my connection speed somewhere, but I'm not going to do anything with this deployment until this is finished. I'm just going to pause the video and then immediately unpause it as soon as the deployment's finished. It just seems silly for you to sit here and wait like I have to, so I'm going to pause the video now. Alright, I'm back again. The deployment is still happening, but I'm bored waiting. It's been like a minute and I'm still bored. I checked my connection speed and that's all fine, so I don't really know what's going on. Weird cloud stuff, I guess. But I was just looking at this deployment guide and we can't really do step 4 because it needs the config site to be up and running, which is still being deployed. But if you come down here, we can actually make a start on step 5, which is the Teams app package. So it says open the manifest JSON file in a text editor. So you know I said I downloaded everything from the GitHub page, from the project. I went to that green button, downloaded the zip file. That's all here. So let me just unzip it. And go into the manifest and open this JSON file. Right, and let's have another look at this deployment guide. So change the placeholder fields in the manifest to values appropriate for your organization. So developer name, website URL, privacy, and terms of use. Okay, we can definitely do some of this whilst we wait. So let's do thought stuff. Let's put in the website of thoughtstuff.co.uk. I'm sure you guys will know that by now. Let's put in the privacy URL. So I've got a generic privacy there, and the same with terms of service. So you should just fill yours in here with whatever makes sense for you. All right, so back to the deployment guide. Change the, sorry, we're at step 3 now. Change the bot ID placeholder to your Azure AD applications ID from above. Same good you entered on the bot app ID. So back over here, it's this one from the app. So where do we put that? Oh, here you can see where it says bot ID. Let's do that. And then in the valid domain section, replace the placeholder with your messaging app services domain, which is your base resource.azurewebsites.net. So for us, that's going to be this.azurewebsites.net, like so. So let's do that in valid domains. Okay, let's make sure we save that file. Are we done on this file? Let's have a look. Blah blah blah, step 5, create a zip package. Oh yeah, we are done then. So we can close this. And then we can create a zip file with these 3 things. So we've got the JSON file and the 2 images. Put them all together in a zip file. I'm just going to call it list search, like so. Okay, I don't think we're ready to run it in Teams yet. Let's go back to the section we haven't done yet, which is this step 4, because we're still waiting for the deployment to finish. The deployment is still in progress. If you're still bored, if your deployment is in process and you're bored at this point, you can actually click this button. It won't make it go any faster, but it will kind of give you the status of exactly what's happening. If there's any problems, you can kind of see them there. But it did say in the documentation it was going to take 10 minutes, and it's been nowhere near 10 minutes. So I'm kind of not worried yet. If I look down here, I can see there's a whole load of green, which is really good to see. And there's some stuff still happening. So I guess we're going to have to go back to waiting again, because I think we've done everything we possibly could to get to this point. We do just need to kind of hang fire and wait again. So I'm going to pause this video again, because there's kind of nothing else to add at this point, and we'll resume again once the deployment finishes. Okay, I'm back because deployment has succeeded. Alrighty, so back here in step 4, add your SharePoint list. So go to the configuration app, which is your base resource name -config.azurewebsites.net, and I made a note of it over here. It's this one here. So we can open this in a new tab, and when prompted, log in as one of the users you specified in the config admin UPN list, and we'll come back in when this is done. So create a new tab and try and open this website. Now this is a brand new website that's never existed before, so we need to give it a second, I guess, to think about what it's going to do. Right now it's not doing anything apart from waiting to load. You can see the waiting at the bottom. I think sort of my guess is that it's going to load the page and then immediately kind of kick out to the Microsoft login with that delegated access that we gave it permission for. I'll sign in as me and then we'll come back again. But right now it's still kind of waiting for the website to spin up. If you imagine this has just been loaded, oh, here we go. So it's now kicking out to the Microsoft login service, and I'll get the sign in. So I will sign in as this user, which was the same user that I had listed, I provided to that list of authorized logins. And then all being well, hopefully I'll end up back on the configuration website again, except this time it will load. And again, it's taking a while, but kind of to be expected, because 10 minutes ago this website didn't even exist. It's the first time it's ever been run. There's a bunch of stuff probably needs to be compiled, a bunch of stuff needs to be set up. A lot of those Azure resources probably need to be hydrated. So your first run, I would say expect it to take a little while. It's not too bad actually. And we come here and this looks very much like the screenshot, which is encouraging. So what do we need to do? So step 3, the list search app is initially not able to access SharePoint until it gets an access token. To begin setting the user, click on the set SharePoint button, log in as the user, the list search will be to access, and click on add a new SharePoint list. All right, so let's do set SharePoint user. Okay, I'm being taken back to another login. So I guess conceptually these could and probably should be different users. So this would be my SharePoint access user. I'm going to use the same user in this case, just to make things a little bit easier. Okay. So hopefully it's got an access token now. Oh yeah, so you can see now it says access SharePoint as me, and I can choose to add a new SharePoint list. So let's do that, and we get this to fill in. So I'm going to have to go back to the deployment guide now to see what to do next. And it says enter the URL of the list you want to index. Okay, and the rest of the fields will be populated with that, and then you can configure it by selecting the display name, the column that should be searchable, and 4 additional columns to be included in the result. When you're ready, click on submit. Okay, fine. So come back over here with me to my SharePoint list. So this is my SharePoint list, and so this is the URL. I'm going to want to search by this full company name, and that's what I want to search by, and I'll optionally include, let's have a look, reference code, region, and account manager are all interesting things. So let's put in the URL first and click enter, and it's going to think about it, and hopefully, yeah, so it's come back with the name of the list, which is encouraging. And in this is it's a list of columns in that list. So I'm going to choose full company name. That's the one I want to do the search on. And then optionally, I'm also going to include, what do they say, reference code, region, and account manager. Perfect. I'm happy with like a 6-hour refresh, and I'm going to click submit. Okay, so it's gone off to think about it. Let's go back to the deployment guide. This can take several minutes, especially if the list is large. Do not navigate away from the page. Okay, well, hopefully moving tabs was okay. When it's done indexing the list, the app will navigate back to the home page. You can repeat the process for Okay, so let's come back over here. So this is currently, I guess, indexing, doing its thing. And when it's done, presumably this page will refresh and we'll know that it's done in some way, shape or form. And then we'll be ready to carry on. Not entirely sure how long this will take. It's not a very big list. There's 100 items in it. So what you're looking at on the screen is how long it takes to index 100 items. So if you've got a massive, massive list, you know, you can sort of compare your list against mine. Okay, it's just finished. So it wasn't that bad. I'd say it's probably about a minute maybe in it for 100 items. So your mileage may vary. But this now looks like it's ready to go. It's got a last refreshed on it. It's listed. I could add more, I think, but I'm not going to right now. It says you can configure up to 4 other SharePoint lists to search. All right, so that step's done. We already did this step. We did it whilst we were waiting for the deployment. We kind of cheated, so that's good. So the next step is to run the thing in Teams. So let's come over here. So this is my Teams client. So let me... really. So hopefully, okay, good. Let me go to apps, and so I'm going to sideload this. So that zip file that we created earlier, we need to sideload that to have it running on our instance. If we want to, we can actually upload it for our whole company, and then anybody can have it. For right now, I'm just going to do it kind of just for me, and we'll kind of go from there. This is taking an eternity. I really don't know why. Yeah, guessing my internet, but not really sure why. So let's go upload a custom app. Hopefully. Okay, and we're going to go upload for me all my teams. And then we're going to, okay, so in downloads, yes, where we are actually, master manifest. This is the zip file we created. So let's click open. At this point, it's going to validate it and check everything's okay. So if there's any problems, this is where we'll find out about them. But it seems all right. And at this point, we can choose to add this to our Teams instance. So let's do that. You can see here, whilst we're waiting for this to load, you can see some of the information from that manifest file, like the thought stuff name, the links to the privacy policy, and the terms of use. So that disappears. And then, okay, so this might take a little while. So this is the list search kind of application loaded up. Now this is not probably where you'd use it. It's just opening it for us because it's the first time. And actually, it's probably a good idea just to let it load because, again, although we've accessed the configuration part, we were actually creating 2 applications, and I think there were 2 sets of websites, and one of those is the main app itself, not the configuration one. So that has never been run before. So, like this first time, it's going to take a little while. Here we go. So this is looking promising. So this is a drop down. Products is the name of our search, the kind of search thing, the list we had in SharePoint. and it says search by full company name, which is cool because that's the name of the column that we indexed it on. And if I can think of one of the names of the companies that were in my search, I think that was one of them. Let's see what it does. Okay, very cool. So it brings back results, and I can kind of see these results, and this is data from SharePoint coming to me in Teams. Now, having it here is great. Let me show you something else that I think you can do with this, because I know this is a messaging extension. So you can see it's up in the command bar at the top, and that's very cool. And that presumably means that anywhere in the command bar you can type /list search and immediately kind of start using it. But what I want to do is show you in Teams as well, in the Teams section. So this is my sort of general team. In a new conversation. So the bit down the bottom of the compose bar down here, these are messaging extensions. So conceptually, I think in these 3 dots, I should be able to see my new list search application, which I do. And I think that means I can pin it as well. Yep, so I can pin it to my compose bar. And what that means is that anytime I'm writing something in Teams, if I'm creating a message in Teams or in chat or whatever, and I want to talk about a particular company, where, or whatever it is, the data's in my SharePoint list, and I want to bring that data into the conversation, I can just click my list search icon. It will open up the window. It will be faster for you than it is for me. I can search by company again, can choose the company I want, review the information, and if I'm happy I can click share, and I think it's going to drop it. Yeah, look at this. It drops it straight into the conversation with a really nice little button, which presumably goes back to the SharePoint list, and I can drop that into the team now, have a conversation about it. That's it. That's how you deploy the list search app template into your Microsoft Teams tenant. I've got 37 minutes on my recording clock. I know we paused it a couple of times for the deployment, but all of that means that you can go from absolutely nothing, and I think you'll agree, I had kind of basically absolutely nothing apart from an Azure subscription and the right permissions, and I know those things can take time, but I went from nothing to having the list search app running in my Teams tenant in under 45 minutes, well under an hour, and with a really kind of ropey internet connection. Not really sure what was going on there, but the point is, you don't need to be a super hardcore developer to do this. We didn't really edit any code. We messed around with the JSON file a little bit, but hopefully you agree that that is kind of accessible. We didn't need to jump through any kind of crazy hoops or anything like that. Anybody can do this. You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to be kind of super hardcore into Teams. You just need to kind of get that you've got a bunch of data in SharePoint. Lists are a really good place to store data. SharePoint's a great repository of data. This will allow you to bring that into Teams, which is where your users are and where your users are having those conversations, and it allows them to have those conversations with context, and that's really kind of unlocks tons of kind of good behavior and productivity gains. So there's zero reason why you can't start doing this today. You can deploy list search, you can call it what you want, you can go to that JSON file, you can change the name of the application, you can change the images, do whatever you want, and then set up those SharePoint lists however you want them. Go crazy. Hope this has been useful. Like I say, it's kind of unedited, but I think there's value in that because you get to see the process kind of exactly, and if you're following along, that can be quite useful to see all the road bumps that you're hitting as well. So I thought there was value in doing that. All right, so I do a bunch more videos on YouTube, so I'd encourage you to subscribe. My channel's at thoughtstuff.co.uk/video. I also do podcasts, thoughtstuff.co.uk/podcast. You can follow me on Twitter, TOMORGAN. Yeah, hope it's been useful. Let me know what you think in the comments. But go and deploy list search today. Your users will love you. Thanks very much for watching.